The Last Passage, New York's subway horror. It was late at night, and I was riding the nearly empty New York subway home. I sat down on one of the few cars that had no graffiti and boarded up windows. The only other passenger sat at the far end of the car staring down, completely still. I couldn't see his face, but I could see his black hair, slicked back and long, almost covering his eyes. I shrugged it off. It was probably just some emo kid. As the train moved, I noticed in the window reflection that the guy hadn't moved at all, not even blinking. I looked away, trying to focus on my book, but I couldn't help glancing back at him every few seconds. Something about him just seemed off. When the train screeched to a stop, I jumped up and ran to the other end of the car, away from him. I looked back over my shoulder. The guy was still sitting there, but now he was looking at me, and he was smiling wide, a wide, toothy grin that made my stomach turn. His eyes were black as night. I froze as the subway lights flickered above us and died, plunging us into total darkness. I screamed and ran, making my way through the pitch-black car. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get away from that passenger. I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, knocking into something hard and solid. I fell to the ground, hitting my head on the way down. As I lay there in the darkness, I heard a voice. Low, raspy voice right next to me. Well, looks like we have a stowaway. I screamed again, scrambling backwards. My fingers dug into something wet and slimy. I pulled my hand away and wiped it on my dress. Came away covered in blood. The subway doors opened, and a voice called out, "Hey, you okay?" Didn't respond. I was too scared to move, to speak, to breathe. I stayed perfectly still as footsteps approached. I heard the man's heavy breathing. "Hey, are you sure you're okay? You haven't moved for like 10 minutes?" I wanted to tell him I wasn't okay. There was a monster in the subway car with us, but I couldn't make a sound. Then I remembered the girl's story. She said that the monster only came out after the lights went out, so I waited. Footsteps came closer. I braced myself for the worst. The man loomed over me, his face inches from mine. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked again. His hot breath on my neck sent shivers down my spine. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't, and then the unthinkable happened. He leaned in, his face getting closer and closer until his lips were almost touching mine. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, and then he kissed me. I pulled away, stunned by what had just happened. The man looked at me, his face pale in the moonlight. "I'm sorry," he said again. "I didn't mean to. I just couldn't help myself." He took a step back, giving me a lopsided grin. "You're really pretty," he said. "I'm Mike." I stared at him, my mind racing. Was this really happening? The monster just a guy who couldn't control himself? I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say anything, the subway doors opened, and Mike stepped out into the light. As he walked away, I noticed that he was missing an eye. His left eye socket was empty, just a gaping black hole where an eye should be.